10x your service design offering with Smapply. Take 20% off any order with This Is HCD 20 off. Let's superpower you and your design team's potential. Sign up at smapply.app. Enjoy the episode from your friends at Smapply, helping support This Is HCD podcast.
Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of This Is HCD. My name is Jerry Scullion and I'm your host. Now, before we jump into this episode, I want to tell you about my 12-week coaching program that I offer through this podcast. Now, if you're listening to this episode and like the content that we produce on This Is HCD, then I reckon my program might be something you are interested in. I've worked with designers from all over the world, from all different types of levels, from mid-level all the way through to chief design officer level, helping them grow both as a practitioner and also as a person. For more information, see the website and schedule a free chemistry call with me. If nothing else, it would be awesome to connect with you. Now, today on the show, we have Damian Kernahan from Proto CX in Sydney. And unbelievably, we did not cross paths when I was living in Sydney. And we speak about this a little bit on the podcast. But I 100% know of Damian's work from when I was living out there. And in this episode, we speak about all things service design, and we go into the role of personas in particular. We discuss, are they the best use for, certain methods, and generally discuss their validity, but also how that's related to both design and journey management. Okay, so for anyone who's interested in journey mapping or visualization, then this is an episode I know you're going to love. It's a great opportunity to hear about Damian's experience and perspective on the state of design, and more specifically on service design, okay? It's a really great one. Damian is an awesome guy. I just wish I had the opportunity to connect and go for a couple of beers with him when I was living out there. I know you're going to love it, so let's jump straight in. Damian Kernahan, I am absolutely delighted to have you on the podcast. I feel like I know you. We know an awful lot of people, but we never connected and never met in person in Australia. But let's start off. Let's tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from and what you do.
Well, first, Jerry, listen, lovely to meet you. And I know in the preamble you gave me lots of Australian accents. So if you could throw some of that in,
about, right?
that would be super. I won't feel self-conscious about myself. I've even forgotten the question. I think it was about tell me about yourself.
Tell me a bit about yourself.
Tell me a bit about myself. I'll just start with the interesting stuff from a work perspective. I wanted to start in advertising, and Mum and Dad said go get a degree, so I did a marketing degree, and then I got what every Australian marketing boy would love. I got a job at Foster's, Carlton United Breweries, as a beer brand manager, and I was the Foster's brand manager amongst other things. So I did that for a few years, where I met my wife. And she was a tax lawyer at the time, and we met. And then a few years later, we ended up. She got a job actually in New York. They needed somebody. Get this, they needed somebody to work in the Ernst & Young tax practice, but understand English law. So Australian law is English law, but they needed to be based in Barbados initially. So she worked for the Caribbean tax practice. We lived in Barbados for 6 months, lived on the beach. I lived there for 3 or 4 months. She lived there for 6. And then we moved to New York in 2000. And so we worked there. And then I worked for Diageo, which is the global drinks company, which is fabulous. So I did that for a few years. That was great. Really had a great time in New York, and then moved back and got my dream, my boyhood dream of actually working in an ad agency and work for Young and Rubicam. And I did that for 5 years. I ran an ad agency, ran
in
Telstra in Melbourne, and also worked in Sydney and did a whole bunch of things there. And then I wanted to scratch an itch, which I'd picked up in New York. I would work with a brand strategy agency, and wanted to start my own business. So beginning of 2008, I left Adland and started a business.
Yeah.
And it was a product innovation business.
You went pretty senior in Young and Rubicam. You were chief marketing officer by the end.
Yeah, in Australia. And so, I was chief marketing officer. I was on a bunch of boards and just helping coordinate their largest clients through the business and in terms of advertising, digital, PR, outdoor. It was a
Mm.
whole range of things. So it was a really good experience.
So what did you take from working in that space? Like when you're exposed to so many brands and they're looking for one thing, usually growth or sales or exposure or awareness or something along those lines. What was the common trend of, I guess, opportunity for you to build on for your new business at that time?
There's a couple of things. I think I learned about the level of complexity and
Mm.
silos. At the time, we were working for Telstra. I think it had 500 people in its marketing department. So you can imagine
Wow.
that 500 people in Australian base. So for those who are overseas, if we've got 27 million people, America has 320 million. So 500 in a national carrier. I used to say to the head of marketing, with all respect, you should probably just halve it, and you'd probably be better off because everything used to have 9 signatures. So I learnt this sort of it was a the idea of complexity and silos and slowing things down, and
Mm.
how when organizations got too big, they couldn't move very quickly, and they couldn't
Yeah.
adapt as quickly as they want to. So that was the one. And then the other one was, yeah, you want to ask a question?
No, I just remember on that point, I remember years and years and years and years ago, I used to be at MySpace in Sydney. Do you
Oh,
remember
yeah.
MySpace, the social
Yeah, I
network?
do. Wow.
And I remember I was lucky enough to get lunch with the global CEO. You all got 20 minutes with, with this person. His name's Mike Jones. He's a super smart person. He owns Science, this VC company in Los Angeles now. And his first task was taking the business from 1,200 employees down to 400, I think it was. And I was like, so that was your week one. What was that like? And I was like, why did you do it? Like, because he was firing all my mates. He was firing all these
Yeah.
people I knew and worked with in LA. And he was like, oh, what was happening was we would all go into our little silos on the Monday and we'd all work really hard. And then on the Wednesday, someone's job was to get the chairs ready for the presentation on Friday. They get all the chairs set up from on Thursday, they do the dry run. And then on Friday, they do the presentation. And then on the Monday, they'd have to clean the chairs away. And I'm like, okay, I get the point. You don't have to labor it. He was like, it just became so hard to get alignment with
Yes.
organizations that size. And
It's,
it just
it's so
really hit
difficult.
home. That was the first time I really thought about the bigger is not always the better.
Yeah, and it's tough for them. So I'm not having a go with them,
Mm.
but I'm quite negative on personas. So I
Yeah.
put out a lot of posts on why they don't work, and I think I learned about that there because, and to credit, they had sort of 8 segments. So you can't knock segmentation. So I'm not knocking
Yeah.
segmentation. Segmentation is a good thing, and there's old people want something, and a younger person wants something, and a family wants something. I get all that. But what was happening in an organization like that is you then had to create 8 sets of communication. You had to have 8
Mm.
sets of approvals. You had to have 8 sets of content,
Yeah.
and you multiply it out, and then it clogs everything up because then you've actually got to start communicating. And we know it's a bit easier now with digital channels. You can be more focused and targeted. But
Mm.
if in those days we were putting money out on 1,200 tarps a week on TV, you can't have all 8 segments. And so I realized, and I've used that in my business, and my clients go, well, we want to do personas, we want to do segmentation. I go, okay, great. If you want to do that, that's awesome. But have you got the resources once we do all this? Have you then got the time, money, resources to actually implement it? And are you going to prepare to actually produce 5 sets of everything
Yeah.
and actually push that through?
And what do they say
And
to that,
sometimes,
Damien?
well, they absolutely, of course, we don't, and they realize it sounds good conceptually, but in reality, it falls flat. And I think
Let's
that's
build on
yeah,
that because,
yeah,
like, if most businesses and most software businesses in particular will lean into personas and they'll do the research and they create what is known as proper, validated, based in evidence personas, and they've got maybe 4 different opportunities for these mystical people. That they've even got photos and they've even got names as well, Damien,
mm.
and they've got problems that they want to get solved, and everything looks good. What do you say to them when when you're presented with this?
Well, I think there's two ways to use personas, and I think the first one is from a buying journey perspective. So I understand personas from a acquisition perspective in terms of, okay, young person, whatever versus an old. I get that they want different
Mm.
communication. There's different hooks to get them in. I guess and at the core, even though we call ourselves a customer experience company, we're actually Australia's first service design firm. So at the
Yeah.
heart, we're service designers. Once you hook them. Okay, let's just say you hook them and you get them in. What we've found over the last 15 years is most people want the same thing.
Yeah.
And so they want it to be quick, easy, seamless, transparent, consistent, valuable, meaningful. Now, don't tell me that a 72-year-old woman wants anything really different than a 27-year-old guy in a beard, because they all want it to be meaningful, useful, relevant, easy, consistent. I mean, and so we focus on not so much hooking people, although we could do that, but it's actually, how do you actually add value to their journey
Yeah.
once they're on board? And we don't see the use of personas there. So how do you use personas when you're actually trying to make sure that you get back to somebody quickly? Is a persona
Mm.
different? Does a 72-year-old lady be happy if you call her back in 6 days versus
Yeah.
a 22-year-old male wants it in 22 minutes? I don't
Yeah,
think so.
that's true.
Like they just want you to fulfill their promises. So you make promises, deliver against them. Don't have to over deliver, but don't under deliver. Just deliver against the promise you've actually made. And I think
Yeah.
that's where we focus most of our time and effort.
Well, where do you see the value of personas? They have to have some sort of seed of opportunity for good.
Well, do they?
No,
So
it's a
it's,
loaded question.
yeah, it's a loaded question. So we've moved on from personas. If our clients want to do them, we'll probably dissuade them. But if they want to do them, we'll do something
Don't
for
make
them.
them fail.
I don't think we've developed this term customer need states, but we've certainly popularized it here in Australia, and we've actually focused on it. And that's the way we go to market now, and the work we do. And Kara, who's my business partner and co-founder, is the one who drives, the insights which come from that. And what we do is we develop typically 4 need states or customer needs for every project that we
Mm.
do, and they're always different. And what that does is sets up and puts everybody on the same page as to what are those customers' needs, what are they looking for us to help them solve.
Mm.
And we also find that organizations throw words around really easily. They probably throw their values around really easily, but they also throw other words around like transparency or confidence or control or support or education or information. But you go around a room or you run a workshop and you say, okay, what does confidence mean to you? You'll get 10 different definitions
Responses.
and explanations of what confidence means for your customers. So if you're saying, what does confidence mean for your customers? You get 10 different answers. What we do is we standardize that and go, we've spoken to your customers. This is what confidence means for them as it relates to the context of the product that you have in the market that you're in with the problem they're trying to solve in their life. That's
So it's
what
much more
confidence
succinct.
means. It's
Much more
far more
succinct.
succinct, and it's actually relevant. It's coming from the voice of the customer in terms of what
Mm.
they feel is confidence. And so as part of that, we're also articulating what are their visceral needs? Like, what is the visceral things coming through to them? I think too many people turn away from emotion. They walk into, and make sure I come back to this, Jerry, but too many businesses, they're human, and then they walk
Yeah.
into a business, and whether that's metaphorically now or they walk into an actual building, and they switch off their humanness, and
Mm.
they adopt their business persona, for want of a
Yeah.
better word, and they forget that they're the customer. That that's just like they get frustrated when their phone company cuts them off. Guess what? Their customer gets frustrated when nobody gets back to them, and they forget about this humanness. So I think injecting emotion
Mm.
and actually articulating the emotions that irrational, mostly seemingly irrational emotions, which are generated when things happen to customers. We hear
Yeah.
this from our clients all the time. I don't understand why they feel like that. And it's Bob Mester from jobs to be done theory talks about this a lot, but the seemingly irrational, once you actually talk to these customers, they'll explain to you in quite rational detail why they're acting irrationally. And once
Yeah.
you sort of, as he says, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I think that's what we try to impart with our clients, to go, we want you to deeply, viscerally understand your customers and the emotions they've got, because humans are not rational beings. I know you expect them
Yeah.
to click in that top right-hand corner and log in 2 seconds unaided every single time. Guess what? They can't
Yeah.
always.
It's funny what you're talking about, a face-to-face experience there of maybe in store or in branch or whatever it is. And very often, in my experience, the systems that the organization has developed for the backstage to occur, so things like interfaces that support the customer interaction at the point of sale or whatever it is, are so strict that they don't have any flexibility to deliver that kind of customer experience that the customer is looking for. So it might be a case of asking, say, listen, look, I've been in here 10 times in the last 3 months. I've spent $6,000. Is there any chance of a discount? I'm like, oh no, computer says no. I need to go to management. And I don't, like those kind of systems, they just don't allow the human experience to occur as much anymore, because head office, kind of design these systems that don't allow those human experiences to occur. In your experience, is where is that coming from? Is that something that
Yeah, I see that all the time. That's coming from because they don't truly understand their customers. We go
mm,
into organizations all the time. They go, well, we know who our customers are. We understand our customers. And I think what Karen and I have come to understand is that they're talking demographics and psychographics and all that type of stuff.
mm,
What they don't understand is the frustrations and the triggers and those seemingly irrational things that drive them. I mean, just to bring up the point that you talked about just then, if I've been a customer and I've spent all this money, if you had spoken to your customers, and enough of them, not that many,
mm,
but 8 to 10 of them, they would tell you, like, I've spent 20 grand with you. Like, where's the
yeah,
freaking love? Where is the
yeah,
love? I'm giving you a lot of love and I want a bit of wiggle room. And, we've done this. I can't remember which client it was, but I remember a few years ago, one of our recommendations was like exactly that. Like, these high-end clients have spent a lot of money with you, but when something goes wrong or they do something, they miss, they're supposed to do something on a particular month and they don't, you slap them.
mm,
It's
yeah,
like, can't you just give them a month off and hey, warning, say, hey guys, you're supposed to actually do whatever you're supposed to do. You didn't do it this month. You've been a good customer. I'll give you a free month or 2 months off. And then, 2 months down the track, it happens again, you have a different conversation. But for us, it's not this deep understanding of it's. There's this thing where for brands and customers, it's not fair. There's not
yeah,
an even thing. We as customers expect more of brands than probably they should do for us. Is it
mm,
right? Is it right? I don't know if it's right, but it exists. So
yeah,
you have to work with that, the fact that we
mm.
just have this sense of we should be getting more from you. You should be actually delivering more value for us.
But it's also the businesses that are doing it really well and they over deliver, kind of the baseline moves. So they kind of go, I've had a great experience with this business over here. They were able to respond to my problem within, an hour, and I got a phone call back. Whereas now I'm standing in line and you're passing me a piece of paper that I need to post. There's that kind of
Yeah.
disconnect between the experiences. So when some other business does it really well, it kind of pushes the bar a little bit further.
Yeah, I think again, I didn't coin this phrase, but it's the last app used, and it doesn't matter whether the last app was
Yeah.
a health app, and then I'm doing a retail app, and then I'm doing a government app or whatever it is. The as you say, as organisations or brands start doing elements better, like
Yeah.
we just expect it. Like on my iMac now, I've got this little button which I just put my finger on and unlocks my computer. Now, the fact that I actually have to type my password in to unlock my computer seems like anathema to me. But
Yeah.
my new baseline's gone from here to here to here.
It's always
And,
moving.
and well, it's always moving, and I think the point you make is about these inconsistencies across channels.
Mm.
We see too many organizations looking for that. Let's delight the customer, and we'll pick this
Mm.
channel and give a signature experience. But we've interviewed thousands of customers over the last 15 years, and what we've found is, as humans, we just want it to go like
Yeah.
that. Like, it's either go at this level, go at this level, or go at this level. I don't care which one it is, but when I go to Macca's, I know I'm getting this one in
McDonald's,
Dublin,
folks.
in Sydney. Sorry, Macca's, McDonald's, in Sydney, Dublin, New York. It's going to be,
Yeah.
consistently the same. And I
You
think,
know what you're going to get.
well, you know what you're going to get. And I've started
Indigestion.
using the term about this metronomic. Too fancy word, isn't it? But that thing on a piano, which
Yeah.
just measures, you put your
Metronome.
weight on metronome. And so how do we make services metronomic? Because products are actually released from factories. This is the difference between products and services. A product is released from a factory and it has to work, because if you return a faulty product, they have to give you another one and put the other one in the bin, and it costs them a whole bunch of money. But every single day in the world, faulty services are launched every single day. So what do I mean by that? Insurance companies sell life insurance. They go, well, people who have life insurance, they probably have cars. Why don't we launch car insurance? And they've got the actuaries, and they've got the brand, and they've got the distribution channel, and they put something together, and they run it out the door. But they haven't really designed the journey for the customers and the drivers and their needs in a really detailed fashion. And as a result, it doesn't break. It breaks. And
Yeah.
and a lot of the time you have to put up with it, sadly.
And then they get designers in to retrofit. They kind of say, okay, well, it's not working, it's breaking. And they've kind of launched something without the involvement of design. And then the designers are required to fix it. And then what? Like, is it a case of helping the organization identify that there is a better way to launch these things? There is a better way to determine the need states up front versus launching and then kind of trying to catch the rain after it's been launched and trying to fix something that's constantly moving. Is that kind of where you see the opportunity? It's kind of twofold. One is helping them fix the existing services, and two, helping to cultivate a better understanding and how to design these services.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing it more and more, but still probably not enough.
Yeah.
And that we go back to this idea that CEOs or senior leadership go, we know our customers. I mean, and they look at the customer experience team and they go, guys, surely we know who our customers. Surely you can fix this. But it's pretty hard to read the ingredients from inside the jam jar.
Yeah,
And
well,
there's
that's
also,
true.
so I think that's difficult for them. And so I think it's one, they expect their internal teams to be able to do it, but they forget there's internal bias. They haven't got the skills because they've been doing different things for the last 15 years versus maybe people like you or I, who that's all we do, 24/7 and been doing for 15, 20
Definitely same
years.
here.
And so it brings in different skill set, and they've also got BAU. So I think it's difficult. I'm seeing more organisations. We're working with Western Sydney International. So there's a new international airport being built in Sydney, Australia,
Oh, really?
and it will be launched in 3 years' time. And we're working with them right now to actually do all that design work. So they've invested. There's some great people out there that are investing the time and money to go, how do we actually create a world-class airport experience? And we're talking end to end from before you even start booking to when you go out,
Nice.
when you come back, and when you get home, and looking at that whole end to end experience. Because let's face it, if you look around the world, there are some pretty second class and third class type of airport
Oh,
experiences.
absolutely. So whereabouts in Sydney is the airport going to be?
That's in a place called Badgerys Creek.
Oh,
So
they
it's
could have
out
picked
in
a better name.
it's about 60 it's about 60 kilometres to the west of Sydney, near the foot of the Blue Mountains.
Your
And it's
Penrith?
going to be out that way, absolutely. And it's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be a
Quite like the
phenomenal
area.
airport when they're finished. Great. It's going to be 24, because Sydney Airport is, for those who've been here, is right next to the city. It has a curfew, and so planes stop at 11 o'clock.
That's
This will
right.
be 24/7. So it'll really change the face of Western Sydney, and the whole freight and logistics and all that type of stuff. But there's an organisation who's putting the time and effort into understanding it, because they understand that there's if they don't do it, it's going to be super expensive on the further down the track.
So on that point, there's, if you're to take it from a human-centered design perspective, it makes sense to deliver a really great service, airport experience, the whole customer experience. But then as we zoom out and we think in terms of Earth-centered design, is that the right place to be sticking an airport at the foot of the Blue Mountains, which is one of the most spectacularly beautiful places? That's naturally going to disturb the ecosystems of probably lots of indigenous.
Well,
Area.
yeah. So I don't think it's exactly at the foot, but it's been this
Close enough.
site's been this site's been. Listen, there's not a lot of land, and as a Sydney and as a country, we're growing our population, and there is no doubt that we need it. I think it was identified probably 40 years ago, so this has been
Oh,
40 years
really?
in
It's
the
been a
plan.
while.
It's been a long, long time since this has been identified, and you actually need that space because it's a whole ecosystem, a commercial ecosystem that's going to build. So it will actually redefine outer Western Sydney, and it will be a really
Absolutely
outstanding
brilliant for
thing.
Parramatta and all those places where getting into the city is just like an extra 90 minutes on terms of your flight times.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to pick up on something you said, designing a great airport experience. And sometimes people look at that and they go, delight. We're not about delight. And I don't think Western Sydney are about delight, although I probably shouldn't speak for them. But they're very clear about we are going to make a set of promises to future customers. And our goal is to be able to deliver them.
Yeah.
And we say brand is the promise you make, customer experience is the promise you keep. We believe there are too few we believe there are a lot of organizations making lots of brand promises, and there's lots of marketing teams whose jobs are to make brand promises. And then you look around, you go, well, how many people are actually responsible for delivering against these promises?
Yeah.
And that's where we see the real opportunity for organizations. Don't overconfigure. Don't go to delight. Not everybody has to have chilled water when they walk in the door. You just have whatever promises you're making. Make sure that you're investing the time, energy, and
To keep
resources
them.
to keep them. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Just do that.
So who is empowered with keeping them then in your experience? So that's
That's the
most
challenge.
people would be like, we would be nodding their heads, oh, of course, yeah, we want to
Sure,
keep them.
sure.
But it's
That's
the
the
people who interact with
challenge.
customers, is it?
Yeah, that's the challenge because most organizations are structured in functions or by departments. And as you and I know,
Yeah.
the journey that a customer goes on crosses across all those departments on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And there are very few organizations who have set up their business to go, we're not selling car insurance, but we have an owner. And I think Suncorp in Australia have done this, although I'm not too close to them. It's an insurance company, for those who don't know it. They've set up ahead of the mobility journey or something like that.
Okay.
So mobility, car. So we're thinking about all the jobs around mobility, car being one of them, and car insurance being a further subset of that. Again, I'm not close to it, but it's an example of when you do that, then you can look at the whole end-to-end journey and start understanding how you can orchestrate and stitch all the touch points together versus I saw this thing. I don't know who it was. Some great American design firm did a presentation 10, 15 years ago when I went to Europe and saw it. And they had a website up. And what they did is they then had an arrow pointing to all the different components. So this is controlled by marketing. This part's controlled by legal. This part's controlled by sales. This part's controlled by people in HR. This part's controlled by operations. This part's controlled by, you get the idea. And so just look at any website and go, it has 8 people in control. And that's just the website. We haven't even actually got to delivering the product
Absolutely.
yet. And so that is
website.
and that's what we see as the challenge. I mean, I think the chief customer officer's role is to start, it's not to be responsible for having to do all of it, but to be able to orchestrate it and look through the lens of the customer and stitch all and connect all the departments up so you're sharing information and getting alignment. That is a missing skill, which I think needs amplifying.
So you've got chief marketing officer, chief operating officer, You've probably got, maybe in some progressive companies, chief design officer. Who
Chief customer
would you
officer,
see? Which one?
chief customer officer as well in larger
Chief customer
organizations.
officer. Do you think that role and that, I guess, accountability to ensure that that's getting looked at and evaluated, is that the chief customer officer?
I think in some instances it is. Sometimes it's the head of operations. So
Mm,
the chief operating officer, because they're trying to configure all together. We don't see too many chief marketing officers taking on this responsibility. It's not a criticism,
mm,
but their skill set has normally been about in the making promises business,
sure.
and they're very, very good at that. And also in terms of marketing, people often say, "Oh, marketing should do it." Whenever we see like a customer journey map from a marketing with a marketing lens, it's about all the opportunities to actually communicate or sell or cross sell
Yeah.
stuff to customers or consumers. It's not take that's an inside out perspective and just how can we sell more stuff or
Mm,
communicate more stuff versus what's the journey that the customer's going on and what are all the things that we need to do internally to actually deliver on that.
mm,
And that could be, call center, could be legal, could be billing. And I'm not sure that a lot of the marketing, I'm not saying all, but I'm not saying sure a lot of the chief marketing officers have that capability to actually understand or have the
yeah.
experience in that area. So I think COOs, so chief operating officers, yes. Chief customer officers, yes. Sometimes we even see the CEO because they're the ones who are worried about
The
all
ecosystem.
all the whole ecosystem. Yeah.
Yeah. Chief revenue officer is probably one that, if they were in the organization, you have somebody who's accountable for the growth. And there is an investment opportunity then from the CRO to say, well, it makes good business to actually, invest in this, because we know that customer experience, there's enough reports out there at this stage. If you invest, there's an ROI in it. So the CRO might be the person that be accountable for this. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it definitely much more an acquisition. So I think you're right. So conceptually,
Mm,
yes, I think chief revenue officers should do it. I see when a lot of the communication I see from CROs and agencies who support CROs, it's far more in the acquisition space. Like, how
yeah.
do we actually get them in? It's less about the customer success component of that, which would actually
Mm,
keep them in. So I'm not against it. I mean, I'm for anybody who's willing
to step up.
to step up. And interestingly, I would say 2/3 to 75% of our clients over the last 3 or 4 years have been female. And so, and Cara and I've started thinking about that and where we've got to
Mm,
is, and this will be controversial for some of the males, but really led by we've got some really smart chief customer officers as clients, female clients. But you know what? They're humble enough to go, I don't know the answer, but I'm smart enough
yeah.
to ask the right questions. And sometimes, maybe more than sometimes, too often, males, and I'm a, white, privileged white male, and it's typical. It's guys like me who think they have all the answers, and that's a sign of weakness not to have all the answers. Like how do I not know how to stitch all this together and make it
Mm,
all work? Surely I've been in business, I've been successful, I'm earning a lot of money, I'm got 1,000 people under my control. Surely I can get this done. And we're seeing females just willing to say, I don't know how to do it myself, but I know how to
yeah.
ask the right questions, get the right people in, and orchestrate it so it does happen. And that I think is
There's an
probably be
opportunity there.
it's an opportunity. Yeah.
I just want to, when you were talking there about great customer experiences and opportunities for people on the front line to make those judgment calls to enhance that experience. I'm going to tell you a story here. It's a little bit of a winding road, but stick with me on it.
Go
So
for it.
we were 10 years married last week. Okay. And,
Congrats.
I've started taking up, anyone who follows me on Instagram, sourdough bread. I've started baking sourdough, and it's a daily ritual. So you have to plan ahead for the day. And I love the process. Okay. And it takes me about 20 minutes. But we have a person that comes into the house and helps tidy the house and clean the house because we've got two young kids. And I've got this thing that I bought when we got married with some of the money, a Le Creuset Dutch oven. Okay.
Mm.
And it cost me
Yeah.
$450 for this pot. Right. and I love it. Okay, and it's so expensive. I couldn't believe I was spending it, but it was like it was wedding money. They
Yeah.
said to me, "Look, you'll have it for your generations."
Life.
Whatever. They sold it into me. Okay, and I was like, "Okay, I'll do it." And it is amazing. It really is. It
Yeah.
is amazing. But the person that came in and cleaned the house was trying to save space in the kitchen and put a salad washer plastic thing inside the Dutch oven. Because they're so hot or so heavy, I put it into the oven and heated the oven to 240 degrees for my sourdough.
No.
And after a day of molding my dough, I opened up the oven door and took out the Dutch oven, about to put my dough in, and I saw melted plastic all over this $450 Le Creuset pot. I shouted a few profanities, looking up towards the sky, and threw ice on it and tried to save it, but it took some of the enamel away. And I was like, oh man, my wife is going to kill me. So this is not going to be the 10-year anniversary that I was hoping for. So I did what anyone else would do. I was like, okay, I Googled around, looking for people to repair this. I was like, is there? No, there's no one. I said, nothing for it. I'm going to call Le Creuset. So I called Le Creuset and got through to somebody, and they go, hey, how can I help you? And I go, well, told them the story. And there was a silence at the end of the phone. And they go, that must have been awful. I'm so sorry to hear that. And I said, do you know anyone who can repair this? She's like, hang on 1 second. And she puts the phone against her chest, and I could hear her talking to somebody. She was like, Jerry, where do you live? And I go, I live in Ireland. And she was like, right, can you send me a photograph of what's happened? I go, yeah. Did it on the phone. And she goes, give me a minute. And she comes back, she goes, we'll replace that for you. And I'm like, you, sorry? I said, you'll replace it? So why? It was my fault. I said, like, they're so expensive. I was trying to tell her, like,
Yeah.
are
No.
you sure? Are you sure? And yeah, sure enough, I got DHL'd brand new Le Creuset pot sent to me 3 days later. $450 worth for no
And
questions asked.
what an
And
amazing
I'm
story. And
telling
the
everyone
empathy.
about it.
Yeah. And you'll tell another 100 people. So you will pay them back, 100-fold. The
Mm,
empathy, what struck me, I mean, it's phenomenal that they did that.
yeah,
But
it's
the
phenomenal.
empathy for her to say that must have been, because that must have been awful. Like, let's just
In
stay there for a
shock.
while. That must have been awful.
Yeah.
And and you talk about, staff and, we develop customer experience principles
Mm,
for clients because they don't need a 50-page book telling them what to do. They need to know, and
yeah.
it's different by client, but they need to know, let's just say a customer experience principle is support or care.
Mm.
In this
Which they all
instance,
talk about.
yeah, which they all talk about. But you just need to know what care means. And then you go, when I'm hearing this story, what's the principle that I need to bring up? It's like care. I need to look up that, and then empathy follows that quickly. I think that's a phenomenal story. And
It's
when
one that I'm talking about.
we see too few types of examples. It's short-termism.
Mm.
We see short-termism too often.
But in that sense, there you've got somebody who is experienced on the phone, okay,
Yes.
and too often you get somebody who's inexperienced and cheap on the phone, and there's a standing operating procedure on how they handle certain situations. They're almost following a script, and it's legally binding, and it's they're not getting themselves into any trouble, and the calls are being recorded. In this instance, they were able to make a judgment call, and that flexibility that I alluded to at the start of the conversation almost gets designed out, and that's what we
Yes.
lose through technology.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I heard a story years ago. Swisscom,
Mm.
the national carrier, they used to have a €50 budget for their customer support staff to be able to flex, just like
Oh,
your lady.
really?
And then they increased it, did some human-centered design work, and they increased it to €500. And the
Ah,
concern was, wow, we're giving all these, hundreds of people the opportunity to actually give away €500 a pop. We're going to lose money. What happened? credits went down. The amount of credits they were handing out went down, even though they had 10x the amount that they could give away. So that seems seemingly irrational. Why is that?
Yeah.
Because they felt a greater sense of responsibility and onus on them to look after the money they've been entrusted with. And therefore, they were more judicious about how they did it. But if they needed to, they could hand it out.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was in the airport in Melbourne and catching a flight the other day. I was actually on a flight. Qantas offloaded me. And then I said, I'm looking on the board and I'm on the phone to them and saying, well, I can see a flight. Like there's one leaving in like 10 minutes and I'm at the airport. And I'm walking to gate 8, which is where this flight was, even though they'd chucked me off. And they, to your point, the procedures or the standard operating procedure, she said, came back on and then started giving me all this waffle. And I went, listen, I'm walking, I'm running, I'm Damian Kernahan, I'm running to gate 8. Am I on or not? Yeah, that's what I need to know. We can cover the rest of the time. Am I on or not? Well, I'm sorry to tell you, sir, that in this, like, I wasn't. But this, like, not really understanding that you've chucked me off. I've said there's a flight. I'm heading to the gate. I'll just start reading my script rather than what's the job I want done. I want to know, am I on or not? Because if not, I'll go back to the Qantas Club and have a cup of coffee. You know,
look out the window.
And look out the window. But you're right. A lot of it's been designed out for efficiencies, which ends up being sub efficiencies. Really.
And I think that's what a lot of people listen to this podcast and they just want to try and ensure a human experience, that we're using technology really to take away the pain and amplify the human experience. That's really what I hope for in the future of design, that we're not being swallowed by technology and we're being replaced and we can barely get hold of humans on the phone to have that empathy. Because you imagine if Le Creuset looked at that situation and said, why do you want to call us? Please go to our website and fill out an application form. That is the most logical explanation there. If you had somebody looking at it,
that's cost efficiency, Jerry.
Yeah,
right there.
But like the fact is, I've easily told this story to 20 people in the last week, and it's not all about like I'm going to tell everyone. That's not what it's about. It's really about that I am now a customer for life, and I am going to, when I go to buy something in the future, like when I win the lottery and buy another Dutch oven pot, I will buy
a blue. You got an orange one, you'll get a blue one.
Yeah. But like I will
matching pots.
But I think that is, if you look at what the rationale is for this stuff, and they say, well, why would we do that? I'm a customer for life. Yeah, okay, great. Are there other things that you can point at and say, well, they'll make more money? What are the other things that people listening to can point at?
I think it's a balance. And I think sometimes everyone's a bit too black and white and they're all or nothing. So they go, let's go with technology. And we're big fans of technology. And if you can employ technology which allows you to actually get your job done quicker and more efficiently and easily, more power to you. Love it. It's great. But things break and things go wrong and technology doesn't always work. And I think this is the missing piece for organizations. Yeah. Knock yourself out with technology, spend up, make it really, accept that things are going to go wrong sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes you're going to need human intervention. Sometimes you're going to need a friendly voice, and you need to have that technology and that at the same time that you can actually shepherd people through, get them back on the technology track. It's just like a siding yard, a rail siding. It's like you were going along here, that's great. Things have gone wrong because I've got a bit of a derailment. Yeah. Let's go off to the siding track with a human, bit of care, bit of empathy, bit of support and love, redirect you back on, and off you go. And that would cost them very little, but it's this all or nothing thing where it's like it's all technology or it's all people. That's too expensive. And I think it can be both. It can be absolutely.
You can lose the money yourself by just leaning into technology so much. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love technology. I mean, I did a CX and AI, webinar this morning for
It
about
is.
40 people, and it's it was pretty simple stuff, and it was for beginners, and so I was introducing people to Chat GPT 4 as opposed to Chat GPT 3, so that was where we're at. But it was
Yeah,
blowing, even with some of the prompts, pretty simple prompts, but that was
pretty
blowing
cool.
people's minds who hadn't used it, and it is mind blowing when you actually can see
Yeah,
what's
the next
possible in terms of
frontier. But
yeah.
look, Dame, we are wrapping up the end of this episode, so people I know will be really interested to learn more about Proto CX and what you're doing, and the needs. What's it called again? Needs what? The
Customer need states.
customer the need states. I'd love to learn more about that myself. Is there opportunities for people to read more about need states, or what's the best way for people to learn more about that?
So I'm posting daily videos on LinkedIn.
You are
So
daily
just look up.
posting videos. I see it every day on LinkedIn. I feel like I know you, that blue background.
Uh, Fantastic. No, I'm loving doing it. So I'm posting a daily on LinkedIn. We've got a YouTube channel, Proto Partners, or
Yeah,
just DM me on LinkedIn, or just or go to protopartners.com.au, and there's lots of contact stuff there. So yeah, I'd love to talk to anybody and
yeah,
explain it. Maybe we can come back another time. We can double click on it.
absolutely. You're always welcome back on the podcast. And look, I wrap every episode up, Damien, by thanking the guests for their honesty and their vulnerability, because I know it takes a little bit of courage to come on and just be having a free flowing conversation and answering, from the gut a lot of the times. So I really appreciate you giving me your time this evening. I know you're probably getting ready to head home and have dinner and so forth. So thank you so much for giving me your time today, Damien. I really, really appreciated it.
Thank you, Joe. I really enjoyed the chat, and any Damian Kernahan. So any Irishman, I'm happy to talk to or have a beer with. So thanks for
Yeah,
your time.